Bonjour, je m'appelle Barbara Hannigan et je fais les 33 questions de musique 3.
Hi Barbara, how are you?
Hi Leah, I'm great, thank you.
Where are we headed today?
We are headed to the Concertgebouw in Amsterdam.
What's your secret fuel to start the day?
Ooh, cup of tea. Very strong black tea with honey and milk.
If music suddenly disappeared from the world, what passion would you throw yourself into?
I suppose running in nature.
What's one thing people might be surprised to know about you?
What would they be surprised to know about me? Well, maybe that my second study when I was in university, besides music, was religion, theology.
When you need to recharge, where do you escape to?
When I need to recharge, I get myself home to Finistère in the northwest corner of France, and I live in the middle of nature, and yeah, that is very regenerative for me.
Growing up in Nova Scotia, how did your early environment influence your musical journey?
Oh, well, my early environment was full of music. My mother was playing music in the home and teaching us piano. We had fabulous music teachers at school, and I lived in a very small village. So we didn't have a lot of other things to do. I mean, this was pre-internet and so on. So I really, I was able to concentrate, like a lot of kids could, on one very particular passion.
You've lived in various cities. How have these places shaped your artistic perspective?
Well, I grew up in the village of Waverly, Nova Scotia. Then I moved to Toronto. That's where I did the first part of my studies. I think that was very formative for me in those early years, from age 17 to about 24. After that, I moved to Amsterdam, and I lived in Amsterdam for almost 20 years. I say that the Dutch actually taught me how to speak English because they use the language in such a direct way that I found it refreshing and liberating to have a way to communicate where there was no second guessing, and that has kind of informed the way that I work with other musicians and make music. I like to be direct because we're working in such a subjective, indirect art form. It's really handy when the way that we use language to communicate when we need to is very, very clear. And after that, I moved to France, and I've been living in France for the last, I guess 10 years almost. And that's been a very, very special experience. First I lived in Paris, and then I moved out to Finistère, to the countryside, and had finally a home and a piece of land. And that has really been life-changing for me. I never really felt like I was coming home until I bought that house in the country, and I go there whenever I can, even if it's only for 48 hours.
Your first world premiere was at 17.
Yeah.
Looking back, how did that experience shape your career?
I think giving world premieres from such an early age, from age 17, made it normal for me to be singing contemporary music and to be working with living composers. It was kind of part of my musical DNA, even before I turned professional. And I think I started to develop an understanding of the wishes of a composer, of all different kinds of composers and all different kinds of ways of working, that has actually had an effect on all the other music that I do, even if the composer is no longer living. Because I think the most important thing in what I learned in contemporary music is that the composers want you constantly to be referring to the score. They don't want you to be referring to something that another interpreter did. They want you to refer to what they wrote. And I think that's very important in any kind of music from any period of time.
Having performed globally, is there a particular venue or city that holds a special meaning for you?
There are so many cities that I feel attached to. Certainly Amsterdam is an important place for me because, as I said, I lived in Holland for 20 years and I gave so many performances here. I met my great mentor, Reinbert de Leo, here and worked with him so much over the years. But I think, yeah, so many cities mean a lot to me. Brussels is also a very important city for me. It was the city where, of course, you have the wonderful opera house La Monnaie, and that opera house gave me many, many chances. My first Lulu, other productions that were very important for me. So I developed a lot in Brussels, and also I have very strong memories of performing at Beaux-Arts.
So, you've held prestigious positions with orchestras worldwide. Which role has been the most fulfilling for you?
Oh, well, I think I wouldn't single out any orchestra as being the most fulfilling. I think there's fulfillment in every single engagement. I think the longest relationship that I've had as a conductor has been with Gothenburg Symphony Orchestra, so they're very, very important for me. But I'm with Munich Phil every year, I'm with London Symphony every year, I'm usually with Radio France very often, and then there are orchestras that I come to every couple of years, like Concertgebouw, which is very, very special as well, I have to say.
So, your album Crazy Girl Crazy won a Grammy. What does that recognition mean to you personally and professionally?
Well, I guess for a North American, winning a Grammy Award is kind of exciting because everybody in my family and my friends, they know what that is. And the Crazy Girl Crazy album was really cool because it was music from Luciano Berio, Alban Berg, and George Gershwin. So it was a really interesting combination of composers. And so I was very happy that that album was recognized in that way, for sure.
How does it actually feel to win the Polar Music Prize?
Polar Music Prize, that was very moving. Of course, I knew some of the people that had won it in the past, like Ligeti, for example, and Boulez. And then, of course, there were also non-classical artists like Joni Mitchell, who I admire very much, Stevie Wonder, So to share it this year with Herbie Hancock and Queen, it was very special. And the way that they organized the prize, the ceremony, it's done in such a way that you really have to accept that you won it. It's not like, I didn't deserve this or whatever. You can't really have imposter syndrome with that prize. You really have to take it and accept it, and it's a very good feeling, the whole ceremony and the whole event. Yeah.
So, I have something to show you. You can press play.
Well, I know who that is.
Un moment totalement imprévu qui t'a fait sourire sur scène?
Alors j'en ai eu plein parce qu'avec des amis on se fait des blagues parfois sur scène. Je me souviens une fois d'un concert en duo avec la soprano Barbara Hannigan et on avait une soirée où on avait pris des photos qui étaient un peu rigolotes et le lendemain elle est arrivée et pendant un morceau elle a glissé une photo et avec un scotch elle l'a collée comme ça à l'intérieur du piano pour me faire rire pendant le concert. Évidemment personne du public s'en est rendu compte, c'était une private joke mais c'était très, très amusant.
So, speaking about Bertrand, he told us during our interview that one of the funniest moments on stage ever was with you. So, what's the funniest moments you've ever had on stage?
Well, I think that moment with Bertrand on stage was very special. I wanted to make him laugh, and I succeeded. And we've actually had some wonderful moments on stage. Once was during the Bows. It was in Paris, and it was for our recital. And I don't know why I lost my balance, and so I really grabbed onto him, and took the bow, and there's a wonderful photo of us both laughing at this moment when I almost fell over. I mean, yeah, so many moments with him are very special. There have been lots of things as an opera singer that go wrong when you're on stage. You know, sometimes the prop isn't there, sometimes you fall, sometimes something unexpected happens. So there are many, many funny moments in operas, for sure, like slapstick moments that shouldn't have happened. Probably for me the most fun was during Lulu, because I was improvising a lot in the production at La Monnaie. I was improvising, just having fun with the character, and so I would do different things every evening to try and, you know, get the rest of the cast enjoying it, and if the director was in the audience, that I knew that he would enjoy that.
All right, so still about Bertrand,
Yeah.
I know you'll be playing with him soon, right? Can you tell me more about the program?
Yeah, well, working with Bertrand Chamaillou is amazing. It's been a life-changing experience, and I really love him very, very much. He's an extraordinary artist. So the recital program that we've created, that we're touring in Europe this year, it begins with a huge song cycle of Messiaen, the Chant de Terre et de Ciel, a very spiritual piece. And, oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Wonderful, with milk, yeah. And then Bertrand plays some solo pieces of Scriabin, which are extraordinary. And usually I'm off stage changing my costume, but I change very quickly so that I can get back and hear at least the second piece. And then we finish with a 30-minute piece by John Zorn called Yuma Lateret, which is super virtuoso. The audiences love it. It's so funny because most of the audiences for classical recitals, they don't know who John Zorn is. But then once we start doing the piece, I mean, even at like when we were at Teatro San Carlo in Napoli, a very conservative opera audience, they were like, "Oh, what is this?" They loved it. So it's a really great program.
And what moves you the most about this program?
I think the spirituality of the program, the connection. So the spiritual connection, which is on a lot of levels, and also that which exists between Bertrand and I as we're making music. And every time we do the recital again, it gets deeper and deeper.
Okay, so back to the premieres.
This tea is not going to get very strong. It basically looks like a cup of milk. I don't know. Maybe. Anyway.
You've premiered nearly 100 new works.
Yeah.
Is there one in particular that stands out as the most transformative for you?
Well, working with John Zorn has been pretty transformative for me. He's given me a lot of courage as a singer, as a musician, because his music is so demanding. I also think there were probably two other big pieces that were life-changing for me. Both of them were within the 2012-13 year. One was Written on Skin by George Benjamin. That was a real breakthrough piece for me. And the other was Let Me Tell You by Hans Abrahamsson. This piece, yeah, I mean, even yesterday, one of the musicians in the Concertgebouw Orchestra said, "Please, will you come and sing that with our orchestra?" And I said, "I've already sung it like twice in the Concertgebouw with two other different orchestras. That's okay, come back and do it with us." So it's a very, very beautiful piece. Yeah.
Amazing. So is there one contemporary composer that you might feel the most aligned with, or not?
I don't think I can choose just one contemporary composer, not least because it would probably not be very nice for all the other contemporary composers who I didn't choose. So I would say there are many who have been very important for me and interesting to me, who have changed me as a musician. As I said, John Zorn, George Benjamin, Hans Abrahamsson, Gerald Berry, Pascal Dussapin. But then more recently, actually, there have been other composers like Golfam Khayyam, who has also, you know, become a very important figure in my life. And working with her, improvising within her music has also been very, very important. So I'm looking forward to continuing that collaboration with her.
So talking about composers, If you could commission a new piece from any composer, living or dead, who would you choose?
If I could commission a piece from any composer, living or dead, who would I choose? Oh, I'd probably be afraid of what some of them would write for me. Well, it would be fun to see what Haydn would write for me. I think that would be very interesting. I would have loved to meet Haydn, you know?
Your performances often push the boundaries of traditional opera. How do you envision the future of opera evolving?
Oh, I think, opera is such an interesting art form because it allows for, multidisciplinary work. Already it's music and theater, it involves dance, it can involve film, it can involve technology. I think people are really into, young people are really into opera, and the idea of, let's say, music theater as being like a fluid art form. I think it's very interesting, also performing in different venues, not only in the opera house, but let's say non-traditional performance venues can be super interesting.
So your rendition of Ligeti's Mysteries of the Macabre is iconic. What actually draws you to such physically and technically demanding roles?
Well, Ligeti Mysteries of the Macabre was a real turning point piece for me. I remember when the score arrived at my house and I was like, yeah, I was looking at the score and I thought, this is impossible, and at the same time I thought, this is totally me, So, and I knew that if I learned it, that it would be, I was pretty sure that it would be successful. And so, that was a very important moment in my life. I wanted to put it in a costume, and I wore various costumes for my performances of it. I did this because the character is from an opera, and the character is the chief of the secret police, so was always in a kind of different disguise or some kind of, strange, paranoid, theatrical aspect. So I just wanted to put myself in something that certainly was not a traditional concert outfit.
All right, so as a conductor and a singer, how do you actually balance the dual roles during rehearsals and performances?
How do I balance the dual roles of conductor and singer? I kind of just assume that they find their own balance. If you had asked me this a few years ago, I would have said, oh, well, I'm constantly trying to do this. And I don't try anymore. I just let them find their own balance, and that's the best way for me to work. I'm a very instinctual musician, and therefore, if I try to control too much, it's not going to be of much help for me. I really need to kind of let the singing take the place that it needs to take, let the conducting take its place, let them work together, and I try to just stay out of the way.
Why is breathing so important in your performances?
Why is breathing? Well, breathing is what keeps us alive. So breathing is not just important in my performances, it's actually important in my entire life. I think having a strong connection to the breath, to an awareness of, I call it a low center of gravity, so keeping the breath quite low. When that breath is calm and grounded, it usually means that the body is working in a much better flow. The musicians play better when they're working with a conductor who is breathing as opposed to holding their breath. And it's something that I spend quite a lot of time on. I mean, before any rehearsal, whether I'm singing or conducting, I will do breathing exercises just to get myself in the zone.
Is there a particular piece or role you've performed that you feel has shaped your artistic identity?
The pieces that shaped my artistic identity, probably there would be 3 or 4. One was Ligeti Mysteries of the Macabre. One was Hans Abrahamson, Let Me Tell You. One was the creation of the role of Agnes in Written on Skin. and the fourth would be Lulu. I think those four pieces really gave me a certain kind of direction, confidence, and possibility. You know, like those composers taught me how to use my voice in a particular way.
What's your process for memorizing new music, especially complex contemporary works?
Yeah, when I memorize music, I'm usually writing it down in notebooks, sometimes on large pieces of paper, but mostly in notebooks. I make a kind of, it's kind of a hieroglyphics in a way, but it makes sense to me. And that writing it down, like using a pencil and paper or pen and paper, it actually helps me to commit it to memory. So there's that aspect. Then I usually walk it or dance it a little bit so that it's quite in the body. And then I use visualization a lot to just kind of try and lock it in. So I've got 3 methods and each one backs up the other.
So, what's the most unexpected musical challenge you've faced on stage?
Unexpected musical challenge that I faced on stage? Well, the most unexpected musical challenge would be if you were working with a colleague who was unreliable. So luckily I haven't had very many of those. I remember I had one colleague who was quite unreliable. It was another singer, and he was wrong so often that I couldn't count on him for any cues, and so I had to really I had to kind of train my brain in a completely different way. But that was probably the most unexpected musical challenge, and the biggest musical challenges. I mean, probably the hardest piece I ever sang was Die Soldaten by Zimmermann, which was at the Munich Staatsoper, and that was an extraordinary experience to sing that opera.
How do you keep being spontaneous and fresh in your performances after years of experience?
I stay really fresh in the performances because I'm constantly coming back to the blank page. I try not to become fixed or attached to anything, either whether it went well or whether it didn't go well. And therefore, everything is in a kind of a new state, you know. I'm always working on my technique, I'm always working on my approach to things, cleaning it up. So that just keeps it fresh by nature. Yeah.
What role does silence play in your performances, both as a singer and as a conductor?
What role does silence play? Well, a very important role. I mean, for example, in a Haydn symphony, the fermata and the silence between the end of one section and another, or within a section, it's so dramatic, the way that you use that space and how much time you take. I think I learned a kind of trick from one of my teachers. She called it the humidifier effect. So it's when you finish a note and before you begin the next note, to allow the silence of the room to become so pronounced that you can hear the humidifier or the air conditioning of the room before you begin singing again. And I remember that, so that it's an act of silence because you're also listening to the silence.
Wow, that's super interesting. So, how do you balance the demands of a global performance schedule with personal time?
How do I balance a global performance schedule with personal time? Not very well. I mean, I try to get home to Finistère, to nature, as often as possible. I realize how important it is for me to have downtime, to be at home, to get my exercise, to cook, to play with my cats. Yeah, so I try to carve it out as best I can. But that said, every once in a while, you know, I'm my own worst enemy because I get offered another engagement and I give away my vacation because I just end up, doing another concert because I just couldn't resist because it sounded like so much fun, and usually it is.
Second to last question. What advice would you give to young musicians who want to follow a similar path to yours?
For young musicians, I would say be true to yourself, work extremely hard on your musicianship, stay curious, and stay away from cynicism or cynical people.
Looking ahead, what's next?
What's next? What's today? Today's Wednesday? Well, what's next is 2 concerts at the Concertgebouw. Tomorrow, hi Marcus. No, it's okay, don't worry about it.
Flesh and blood always behind the camera.
It's all right. What's next for me? I have concerts with the Concertgebouw Orchestra this week. Soon after that, I return to the Orchestre de Chambre de Lausanne, where I'm principal guest conductor, to make a wonderful program with them and Bertrand Chamayou. And not long after that, I'll be at La Scala in Milan with my production of La Voix Humaine. So it's a fun autumn. So maybe I'll see you at some of those concerts. And thank you so much. Bye.